Hello there. Welcome back to the Path to Better A1C podcast. I am your host, Jenny Pena, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, Diabetes Prevention Program Lifestyle Coach, creator of the A1C Reset Protocol, my 12-week health coaching program specifically designed to help you balance your blood sugar, lower your A1C, prevent type 2 diabetes, regain your energy, and lose weight. Now, today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic because this is something that affects a lot of women and it could be misunderstood. I'm seeing a trend of ladies that are younger and are being diagnosed with prediabetes. Now, many women who struggle with irregular periods, PCOS, fertility challenges, fatigue, cravings, weight gain, they're often told that the issue is purely hormonal. But what many people don't realize is that blood sugar and insulin resistance are often at the center of the problem. It is not just hormones. However, I will clarify insulin is a hormone. So today, I am going to talk about the connection between hormones and blood sugar, why PCOS and irregular periods are often linked to insulin resistance, what hormones are involved, and as always, some simple strategies that you can start implementing. Now, this episode will also set the stage for the next, where I am going to be joined by functional medicine nurse Vanda, who will share some practical strategies to support hormone balance and mineral intake. So, look forward to that for next week. First, let's get an understanding of insulin, which is a key hormone that sits at the center of this conversation. Now, most people associate insulin only with diabetes, but insulin actually plays a part and a bigger role in your body. Insulin is the hormone responsible for helping glucose, which is sugar in your bloodstream, move into the cells so that it can be used for energy. Every time we eat carbohydrates, blood sugar rises slightly. It is normal. It's supposed to be that way. Now, that is something that a lot of people think that their blood sugar is supposed to be a straight line. No, it's supposed to go up and down, not in a sharp way though. But let's continue. The pancreas releases insulin to help bring the blood sugar back down. When everything is working properly, the blood sugar rises and falls in gentle waves throughout the day. Gentle waves. But when someone develops insulin resistance, the cells kind of ignore insulin a little bit. They don't respond properly to it. And it's almost like the cells just can't hear the message. So the body compensates by producing, guess what? More insulin. And over time, the insulin levels remain chronically elevated. This is where things start to affect other hormones in the body. And that is without mentioning what I've said in previous episodes about how when your insulin is elevated, also your body has that signal of storing fat instead of using the energy. And that is why you see the weight gain. And that is why it's sometimes hard for you to lose the weight when you're having insulin resistance. Now, why insulin affects hormones? Like many people don't realize that insulin doesn't just influence blood sugar, it also influences reproductive hormones. And when insulin levels stay elevated for long periods of time, it can stimulate the ovaries to produce higher levels of androgens, which are hormones like testosterone. Now, higher androgen levels can interfere with ovulation. And when ovulation becomes irregular, also menstrual cycles become irregular. This is one of the reasons why women with PCOS often experience those irregular periods. And PCOS is often described as a reproductive condition. But at its root, it is very often a metabolic condition driven by insulin resistance. Now, why is PCOS and insulin resistance connected? Well, research shows that a large percentage of women with PCOS also have insulin resistance, even if they're not overweight. And this is important because many women believe insulin resistance only happens if people with obesity or people that have type 2 diabetes. But insulin resistance can develop years before diabetes even appears. It is not an overnight thing. And sometimes the first signals show up as irregular cycles, difficulty ovulating, fertility challenges, stubborn weight gain, fatigue, sugar cravings, acne, and all of these mood swings. So instead of seeing PCOS as a hormone disorder, sometimes it's helpful to see it as a metabolic issue that is affecting that hormone balance. Let's talk about the blood sugar swings and hormone imbalance. Another piece of the puzzle is blood sugar fluctuations. Now, when meals cause large spikes in blood sugar, the body releases a large amount of insulin to bring that sugar down. Sometimes insulin overshoots and blood sugar drops quickly. That is when you start feeling shaky, when you feel exhausted, irritable, and you're having these very strong cravings for sugary stuff and carb stuff. Many of my clients experience what I call the 3 p.m. slump. They feel like they need coffee, they need sugar, they need something quick. And that is often a blood sugar crash. And when this pattern repeats day after day, the body starts developing insulin resistance. And that impacts your hormonal balance. Now, let's talk a little bit about the main. We have many hormones that interact in our body functions, but the ones that many people mention, right? Estrogen, progesterone, and cortisol. Let's talk a little bit about that. And this is going to be a little sciencey of an episode, but I promise it is the best prequel for the conversation we're having next week. Estrogen and progesterone, they are the two main reproductive hormones involved in the menstrual cycle. Estrogen rises in the first half of the cycle and it helps prepare the body for ovulation. Progesterone rises after ovulation. But when ovulation does not occur regularly, which can happen with insulin resistance, progesterone levels remain low. And then this imbalance creates PMS, heavy periods, mood changes. And then another hormone that is involved in the conversation is cortisol. That is the stress hormone. Now, chronic stress and poor sleep, they both are factors that will increase cortisol levels. Higher cortisol can increase blood sugar levels and make the body more insulin resistant. We see how stress, how blood sugar, and reproductive hormones are all interconnected. That's why I love what I do. And I have a passion for blood sugar regulation because I feel that it goes beyond diabetes and prediabetes. I think it impacts so many other elements. It impacts your energy, it impacts your reproductive system. It is so important to focus on balancing your blood sugars. When you do that, so many things are taken care of. Now, there's one concern, and this is why I wanted to bring Vanda next week and I wanted to talk about this. It's because I am seeing a pattern now. I'm seeing a trend. I have been noticing in my coaching practice that more women are experiencing signs of insulin resistance earlier in life. Years ago, many people were diagnosed with prediabetes and type 2 diabetes when they were in their 50s, sometimes 60s. Now I'm seeing women in their 20s and 30s already experiencing symptoms related to metabolic dysfunction. But now, here are the good news, and that is people are now recognizing the connection, and the practitioners are recognizing the connection between blood sugar and hormones. And this allows us to intervene sooner. Many times, simple lifestyle shifts can make a big difference. What, as a woman, can you start doing right now? The first step is focusing on balanced meals. Instead of focusing on removing foods, I am going to get into this keto diet. I'm going to do intermittent fasting. I am going on a whole 30, a paleo. Like what I have seen that works for many, it's to balance the plate, having balance, not necessarily focusing on eliminating food groups or specific macros, but finding balance. What does that even mean? You may ask. Incorporating protein, fiber rich carbohydrates. So, no, the carbs are not the enemy. Healthy fats. What are those? Think Mediterranean. Think olive oil, nuts, seeds, avocados, and vegetables. A lot of the non starchy vegetables that are great in terms of nutrients. So, this combination, it is going to help slow your digestion. It's going to prevent you having blood sugar spikes. And that is going to impact the cravings, the moodiness, and it's going to keep your hormones in check. Another powerful strategy is movement after meals. Something as simple as 10-minute walk can help the body use glucose more efficiently. Sleep is another critical factor. People sometimes don't pay attention to sleep. Poor sleep increases cortisol and makes your body more insulin resistant. And then last but not least, we have hydration. Hydration is the easiest in terms of investment. You don't have to spend lots of money in order for you to hydrate. And yet, it's one of the hardest things for people to stick with. The key takeaway I want you to remember for today's episode is this: hormone health and metabolic health and insulin resistance, they're deeply connected. So if you're dealing with irregular periods, PCOS, fatigue, cravings, fertility challenges, it is worth looking at how blood sugar and insulin resistance may be influencing your hormones. Supporting your body through nutrition, movement, sleep, hydration, and stress management can go a long way in improving both your hormonal health and your metabolic health. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, consider sharing it with someone who might also benefit from understanding this whole connection. And as always, if you want support balancing your blood sugar and lowering your A1C, you can find resources in the show notes. Feel free to message me if you have any questions or book a clarity call, absolutely free. No obligation to purchase any of my coaching programs, just a safe place for you to chat. Until the next episode, bye.